Everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are going to talk about BRICS and the new currency that's supposed to be coming in August, right? Or so we thought. So there's some new clips that have come out of India, and there's some new topics of discussions talking about, hey, maybe this new gold-backed currency isn't yet coming in August. But we're seeing this huge media push on this other side of it saying, yes, it is coming. So I like to just kind of sit down and talk about what is actually happening, show you the information, and then you can decide what you think is going to happen. So what the BRICS countries are trying to do, guys, is they're trying to create their own IMF, basically where they can go and get financial help if they need to. The problem with the IMF, guys, is when they go into some of these countries, when they loan countries money, they do a lot of stipulations of, hey, you got to pay back this. If you don't pay back this, we do this. And that's what China's done with the Belt and Road Initiative, right? China's gone out and built all of these projects in all of these countries and said, hey, don't worry, if you can't pay us back, we're going to go ahead and take those gold and mines and those copper mines or whatever kind of gold, wealth that country has, whether it's oil or natural gas, it could be copper and palladium or whatever is needed to build smartphones, right? You need a lot of different like cobalt and graphite and all these different things, right? To build solar panels and all this stuff, right? China and the IMF kind of still, they have the same kind of thought process. They'll go in and give you loans, and if you don't pay back those loans, we'll get paid back somehow. And I think out of all of the projects that the Chinese have done, only one country has paid them a little bit of money back, and that's Sri Lanka. And Sri Lanka just went through a total meltdown in their country of basically their finances. But this is basically the IMF's FDR, and it's built with the US dollar, the Great British Pound, the Japanese yen, Chinese yuan, and the euro. Okay, and that's what it looks like. And so this is what we're getting told by media from all over the world and what's coming in August. And we're going to talk about it.
The BRICS group is set to introduce a new currency backed by gold, in contrast to the credit-backed US dollar, with countries lining up to join the growing initiative.
The BRICS countries are planning to introduce a new trade.
Understand this. It's actually, here's a history lesson. In 1971, in August 22nd, they're meeting in the 20th to the 22nd this year. But that's when the US got off the gold standard. And the US had about 2% of gold backing what was then the currency of the US dollar, okay? Obviously, we got off the gold standard and we print, and we're $32 trillion national debt. So let me play this now and we'll get back into this.
Currency, which will be backed by gold. More and more countries recently expressed desire to join BRICS.
The decision comes a month ahead of scheduled Alliance Summit in Johannesburg, South Africa. 41 countries have since shown their interest in BRICS membership and its new currency implementation. Russia's foreign ministry has stated that if African states show enthusiasm, the group's expansion may also be on a Russia-Africa summit's agenda in the end of July. As of now, the BRICS group remains comprised of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Former statistician general of South Africa, Pali Lehola, says the gold-backed currency will facilitate the advancement of developing countries.
Avoiding using the gold standard, we have gone.
All right, the next minute is kind of just talking about the gold standard. But here, this is Jim Rickards. And Jim Rickards is famous for the ICE 9 scenario where, banks all shut down, institutions all shut down for a number of weeks. And then we go on to this new financial system, this quantum financial system. And he was told this by people high up in BlackRock and some other places, right? And Jim Rickards used to be, I think, a CIA officer. I don't know his full history, guys, so if I got the 3-letter agency wrong, don't shoot the messenger, all right? But here's Jim Rickards. I'm going to let him talk, and then we're going to talk. I'm going to show you what's actually coming out of India and what they're telling us that maybe counteracts what is being told by us by the media and with Jim Rickards, okay?
It's just Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa are the big 5 BRICS, but they've now expanded their meetings and their work to include a lot more countries. So Argentina, Iran, Turkey, a lot of other important economies who have these BRICS conferences. They've announced that they're working on some kind of global settlement currency. And I would make the distinction between a payment currency and a reserve currency. People tend to confuse the two. They tend to talk about the reserve currency status. That's a tough nut to crack. It can happen. Sterling used to be the main reserve currency. It lost its role between 1914 and 1944, but that took 30 years. Now the dollar may be losing its role, but that's going to be a slow process. But the payment currency is different. You could use almost anything as a payment currency, assuming the parties agree. So they may come up with an international payment currency backed by a basket of commodities, and they're all commodity producers. Russia has oil and natural gas. Saudi Arabia has oil. Brazil, again, has oil, but also large agricultural. output, largest or second largest soybean producer in the world. Africa has enormous mineral outputs, et cetera. So you go around the membership, and you can see that they've got the potential commodity backing for that. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, is a Central Asian group led by Russia and China. But again, they're attracting new members. They're working on something similar, and others are as well. And of course, we've got our friends over in crypto world. I don't think that will be a reserve currency probably ever, but as a medium of exchange, as a payment, it could perform a role. And I've lectured about and hypothesized that Russia and China could develop a new digital currency. It could be a cryptocurrency, call it the Xi coin, Putin coin, whatever you like, and use that as a payment mechanism. But all you're really doing with any payment currency is you're keeping score.
Keeping score. Okay, so instead of a reserve currency, maybe they create a gold payment currency, right? That could happen, but I don't think we're heading to a reserve currency just yet, all right? And he gave those two distinctions in that clip, right? So I want to watch it. This is the New Development Bank. This is Masdorp on the BRICS plan in South Africa, all right? So he's going to kind of tell you, and he's the New Development Bank Vice President and Chief Officer, okay? And so what the BRICS countries will probably do, guys, is they have all of these commodities like Jim told you, right? They have natural gas and soybeans and possibly gold and all this stuff. They could tokenize all that value. And all of that tokenized value could back a new currency. Now, China and some of the BRICS countries have enough gold to create maybe a 2 or 3% and 2 or 3% backed by gold, and that would go to about a $6 trillion new currency that they could use to do all this stuff. But I don't think they're going as a reserve, maybe more of a payment currency. But let me have you listen to what this gentleman says about where he sees the plans of what he thinks is going to happen.
Leslie, we know the BRICS nations are pushing for their own digital currency. I mean, where are you with that? What's the model you're pushing through?
And the first point to make is that the New Development Bank has US dollar as its anchor currency. Our balance sheet is in US dollars. We are firmly embedded in the US dollar hemisphere.
We are firmly embedded in the US dollar hemisphere. That tells me right there that, hey, it's not just, hey, the de-dollarization is going to happen overnight, guys. All of these countries still need the US dollar, all right? And the de-dollarization is going to happen, but it's going to happen very slow. Years, maybe decades even, right? Jim Rickards told you that the Great British Pound, when it was like 1914 to 1930, it took almost 30 years for them to lose that standing. And it could be something similar. Might not be 30 years, might happen a little quicker because of digitization and being able to create all these new currencies because of blockchain and DLT. But you have to understand, right? BRICS, India, Russia, China, South Africa, and Brazil all have connections to some of our favorite cryptocurrencies like our XRPs and some of them the XDCs, okay? But let me let this play on some more.
If you like. I think the development of anything alternative is indeed, a medium, more longer term ambition. If you take one step back and you imagine what it was like in 1944 when the current global financial architecture that we have today was created with the formation of the World Bank and the IMF. If we were to have a similar Bretton Woods conference today, it is highly unlikely that it will be anchored by a single currency. So all we are saying really amongst the BRICS countries is that we need to reimagine what a world that is more appropriate to the conditions of today would look like. And it certainly would mean that emerging market currencies will play a bigger role. The Chinese renminbi, for example, which is, as you know, now part of the special drawing rights, it is growing as a currency of trade, but it's still a long way off from becoming a reserve currency. So it's going to take a very long time for currency movements to take shape. So any discussion of alternate currencies is indeed much more of a medium, longer term aspiration.
Medium to longer term aspiration. All right. And understand this, guys. I don't know where you are in the world, and I don't know what you know about the United States, but the United States has basically built out this military to allow countries to trade freely. And that's what's happened over the last, since the Cold War ended, right? The last, 30, 40 years. And basically people are, countries have been able to trade freely because the US Navy kind of these storms at bay, right? You have China trying to come up in the world. They might want to invade Taiwan here over the next couple of years. China basically has, they want to become the world reserve currency, but it's going to be difficult for them because, they don't print out as much data as the US does, and as far as clarity goes with the Chinese system. So, I do think businesses, corporations, and conglomerates all look at saying, hey, do we trust the US dollar more right now or the Chinese yuan? I think the Chinese yuan, they need to work on more reporting on the Chinese currencies, and kind of, other countries need to feel that they're not buying into something where they don't have the full picture, right? At least with the US, you have somewhat of the full picture, but with some of these other currencies, you might not. So I do think the US dollar is going to stay ahead of the game here for the next several years, guys. But if that changes, I will bring you those updates and things like that. But what is going to happen in August? It's really up in the air. You're hearing from the New Development Bank here, the vice president saying, hey, I know a lot of people are saying that the new currency is coming, but it might take us a little longer to develop that. So I would love a new currency to come out in August that's, backed by gold, that is digital, that it needs a good bridge asset, because that would speak right into my wheelhouse and your wheelhouse of XRP, right? Because you need that. What is perfect for that, to cure all that friction in that system? It's a good bridge asset that settles in 2 to 5 seconds for pennies on, for pennies to move the value. So we'll see how it plays out, guys. But I wanted to bring this to you because we've had a lot of conversation about BRICS in this channel previously, and updates need to happen, right? And I need to present you with the latest and best information so you can go research this yourself or make better decisions in your life. I hope this was helpful, guys. Thank you so much for being a part of my channel. Thank you so much. And tell me in the comments below, if you made it to the end of the video, do you think BRICS is going to have this new currency in August? And if so, what do you think is going to happen? I'd love to hear your thoughts, guys. I respond to every comment, so thank you so much for leaving them, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao. Bye.